Hi, everyone, and welcome to the iSpring Solutions webinar series, where every week we talk about e-learning trends, share iSpring tips and tricks, and cover clients' cases. I'm Paulina Ionina, the community manager at iSpring, and I will be the moderator for today's session. And today we have a quite interesting topic to cover because today we'll talk about humanizing e-learning. We'll explain why e-learning is a great fit for almost any organization or business, and talk about so-called human touch in e-learning and how important it is. Also, we'll explain how to humanize learning and what can help you achieve this goal. You'll also learn about the experience of an actual company that achieved greater results by implementing e-learning. For those of you who are not familiar with iSpring, we are your starting point in e-learning. We provide an authoring tool and an LMS, as well as unparalleled support on your way to impressive results. But we believe that tools are only part of great success, and that's why we provide these webinar series. So I hope you enjoy this session, and now let me pass the mic over to our presenter, and that is Max Ionin, Director of Customer Success in North America. Hi, Max.
Hi, Paulina. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Max Ionin, and so daily I make sure that every iSpring client achieves the best results in their e-learning projects in the shortest time frame possible. So how that all started and why we are here. When the pandemic overtook the world, it forced a lot of organizations to invest in HR tech, and this led to 75% of L&D processes becoming tech-enabled. That was when iSpring faced an entire market of new clients needing assistance like yesterday and facing their fears of adopting e-learning. Because instead of a planned decision that was definitely a necessity and a force majeure, they hesitated, mostly because they were not sure if it would be as effective as a live trainer face-to-face with learners in a physical classroom. Do you think it can be challenging to engage learners with a digital learning culture that's missing the human touch? Use the raise hand emoji if you feel so in the chat. If it's challenging, just please do that. Thank you, Kirsten, Sarah, Tony, Elle. That's amazing. Looks like we picked a good topic. So many believe that one of the biggest challenges in e-learning is the absence of a trainer, which can lead to missing the so-called human touch. It's definitely important to stay human. But I personally disagree because I think that a lack of a trainer can actually be a huge advantage. And let me explain what I mean. In face-to-face training, learners are required to follow just the same learning timeline. At the same time, every student is unique and digests information at a different pace. So e-learning actually allows starting at an individual pace that is suitable for each learner, that leads to stress-free and mentor-free education, and therefore better content retention. All this leads to better business results. E-learning helps save time, both for the students and the trainer, and there is content that can be digested by students on their own, such as lectures, rules, and regulations. If there are any remaining questions, an online session can be held in which you will focus only on those questions. This kind of brief one-on-one sessions can let learners know that they are not alone and give them a greater feeling of assurance. By the way, who holds such sessions? Just let me know in the chat. We ourselves found it as a great practice when we all were on a lockdown. If you do that, yeah, I see some raised hands. That's amazing. If you have anything else to share about one-on-one sessions, please do. I'll make sure to read every comments. Yeah, Trish, I totally agree that time is probably the biggest resource to hold a lot of one-on-ones. That's great. I appreciate your answers. So, how that works. 5 to 10 years ago, we would have had just the same question. How can we engage our learners if we are not in a classroom? If we don't see them, if they don't see us, it's just lack of communication. It's kind of hard to even talk to you right now because I don't see all of you. Trust me, if all the webcams were on, it would be much easier. But now with all the technology that is available, we really shouldn't be worried about not providing truly engaging content. And there are so many ways that allow us to interact with the content, such as video lectures, dialogue simulations, branching scenarios, just to name a few. And I would also like to add here that there are some industries, such as manufacturing and healthcare, that require hands-on training. And e-learning will not add limitations. At the opposite, it will provide a safe environment for a continuous learning process. To sum up what we've just covered, not only will e-learning not be the biggest challenge, it will lead to some great results, such as an individual learning timeline that will lead to stress-free education, better content retention, and great business results. The trainer will easily be able to allocate the time for personal sessions with the learner since they will only cover the question portion of the class. We could have done exactly same thing with this webinar session. I could have sent you the info part ahead of the session with all the contents and all the theoretic stuff, and then we would just dedicate our time together in real time only for Q&A session. By the way, let me know what you think about the format like this. We can well try this in the future. And so I personally see some interest in the crowd gatherings where we can just discuss the topic rather than run for the content portion of that. If we have a lot of comments, I'm sure Paulina will add a session like that on the future schedule. So, of course, while e-learning offers a safe environment for continuous learning, it's also a great way to provide students with unlimited opportunities to practice, but we'll talk about all of that in just a moment. So far, I hope I was able to convince you here that e-learning, when used properly and to its fullest potential, can be an effective tool for keeping your learners engaged. And speaking of tools, I'm going to dedicate the next part of my presentation to the features of an authoring tool that will help you humanize e-learning. As an example of a tool that we can use for this purpose, we'll use iSpring Suite, and I will cover these features one by one. And let me start first with adding the character. I would definitely encourage you to use the characters in your courses simply because, according to Julie Dirksen, it creates an emotional connection between the learner and the content, as well as involving them more in the training process. We don't have a person, but we really have a character. The next feature you could easily use is audio and video narration. This will make sure that your learners feel like they're watching a live lecture with the trainer. Again, type in plus if you already use audio or video support for your presentations. Next, screencasts. Another great feature. I personally use it all the time when I work on Salesforce training, and it can easily capture your activity on the screen instead of offering a static text. Screencasts can also be enhanced with the voiceover. If you don't want to record your own voice, consider using a text-to-speech feature, which is also available here. To build conversation simulations that train communication skills efficiently, you can use dialogue simulations and characters. And in this sense, like you just build dialogue trees that are perfect for a particular type of students to help them retain content more effectively. My salespeople, especially the newbies, they definitely like the fact that it's stress-free. It's not like a real conversation with the clients. They can work through many scenarios in a safe environment. By including extensive and supportive feedback, you will also help them not feel alone on their learning journey. Oh, yeah, and to answer a quick question from the chat, we have all kinds of characters. It's not like we have a ton of high school age characters, but we are working to include a diverse characters all the time. And so you can definitely find characters of all ages, ethnicities. So you can definitely go ahead and check out what's available with the content library. Let's move next. I also use interactions and definitely recommend considering this tool. So labeled graphics, timelines, media cards, and more, all of these content types involve your students in the training process, and they also help you memorize only the essential information. Instead of deck of slides, just use a nice and smooth interaction. I personally think that it also supports the trend for micro-learning. And instead of a lot of content, we want to send something nice, sweet, short, and just something that they will use to consume the information. Going further, interactive type of questions such as drag and drop, hotspot, type in, all of those require action on the part of your learners and keep them alert and engaged. It's not a typical multiple response kind of test. It's something which just brings in the interaction to the new level. Another technique that you can use is adding gamification elements to your training. And this can include the question types that I've mentioned, as well as using the timer, using points, changing the character's expression depending on the action that is taken, and so on. With quizzes, you can also create mini games, flashcards, and other types of great contents. Uh, what iSpring put in behind when engineering pretty much all the products that we do have is the simplicity, which can react into some really great results when multiplied by your imagination and your vision of the end product. Next, feedback messages. When you use feedback messages in a course, they're just really important and they support the idea of humanized training perfectly. All of above lead to the interaction of our learners with the course, but I have some more techniques to share with you. Another one that I really like is branching. Branching is great technique that a trainer can include in a course to guide their learners. And branching is way more than just right or wrong answers. It's pretty much a path from a point A to point B that can include partially correct answers. And the only difference here would be that one route would take longer than another. Eventually, you will get to the point B, but depending on the approach, it would be just a different pace. That definitely can be compared to a situation where a trainer is aware that a learner knows the answer and asks leading questions to get them to the correct answer themselves. Here on the slide, you can see the branching scenario of an actual course on nutrition that gives a learner the freedom to navigate through the course at their own pace. Nevertheless, to make the training process more humanized, don't forget to use the blended approach, schedule one-on-one meetings. I know it's painful that they take time. Keep track of learners' progress and just use a variety of techniques in order to get the best results. Try to be there when they need you for the chat or comments, for example. That also helps, just like you help me feel like we are here and in touch, even though I can't hear you or can't see you, thanks to the chat feature. We had a great case recently, and so that's what I want to talk about right now. One of our clients, a large manufacturing company, unfortunately, I can't name it due to the NDA. So here's what happens. They needed to introduce some formal automated onboarding for their employees in order to manage turnover, increase staff efficiency, and reduce training time and expenses. At the beginning of the company's journey, our client faced specific challenges but managed to overcome them with e-learning. So the first challenge in onboarding employees in the manufacturing industry is that there are higher risks and serious consequences due to the mistakes. Our clients designed a mandatory course on hygiene and safety, uploaded it to the LMS, and assigned it to learners to take before they started their practical tasks. According to our clients' feedback, it helped them reduce accidents by 50%. The next one that they had was identified was a discrepancy between employees' initial results and trainers' expectations. Our clients used general guidelines and instructions that were stored in the knowledge base that employees could access 24/7. The third challenge, on-the-job training is risky, but in manufacturing, it's hard to make training strictly theoretical, and a blended approach is needed. Our clients scheduled online and in-class sessions through the LMS. Pretty much all major LMSs, including ours, support these functionalities nowadays, and their learners had to read about the process, watch the tutorial, go through the self-check, and only then they were able to perform the task in real life with the supervisor. Challenge 4, according to our client, the best way to clarify the expected results and how the processes should be conducted is to develop formal documentation. Most of materials they had developed so far were in just plain text format, and they were not ready to be turned into actual training. Our client used an authoring tool to turn the paper-based contents into easy-to-follow interactive courses, how-to videos, and online quizzes. And this is just another brilliant aspect of e-learning, because you can reuse a lot of old school kind of contents and make sure that it gets second breath and helps you achieve the business results. And the final challenge we selected is a lack of comprehensive and objective tracking tools. Our clients implemented the LMS platform that provides enhanced online reporting, and in our client situation, they had one training and development manager responsible for 50 learners at a time. Cool. So even though in our client situation, they had just one training and development rep responsible for 50 learners at a time, all of them felt supported, and they knew they could ask her any question because she knows how to help. And she knew this as well because she would go to her report dashboard every day, look at the overall progress of her group of students, and could easily find any gaps to fill. The results overall were impressive. We did the benchmark, and in 9 months after moving their training online, our client saves 1,020 hours of work. Savings every month were calculated as $5,000. But most importantly, because we are still here all about humanizing and learning, most importantly, they reduced the turnover from 18% to 0%, and they reduced the onboarding time by 10%. Even if they had some turnover left, I personally feel that it's an amazing result to keep all the employees that we hire engaged and make sure that we don't have these crazy times when people rotate all the times and leave company, join the company. Uh, Personally, I'm more of a Toyota kind of approach person, and it's amazing when we can take a look at hiring as a lifelong journey. I know it's not doable in all the industries, but where it's possible, it's always amazing to see our clients feeling kind of same in their philosophy. So when you decide that e-learning is what you need, We want to point you to some key attributes you should consider when selecting a digital learning solution. And you know there are tons on the market. It really depends on what kind of solution you're selecting, an authoring tool, an LMS, a web conferencing platform, all of those. And while there are just a few authoring tools which are solid on the market, you can often see this functionality in the LMS as something integrated and built in. There are hundreds of LMS platforms on the market, and probably nobody ever did the full research before making a decision. It's just impossible. And with web conferencing platforms, like though we see some leaders, you also have a variety to choose from. But there are some general steps that I would definitely suggest following when you select a digital learning solution. So first, identify your needs. Determine what your objectives are. Ask yourself, what do I want to achieve from implementing the learning technology? From the answer, it will become clear what results to look for, how to measure them, and aims should definitely be specific, measurable, achievable, and time limited. Um, Use the raise hand if you use SMART whenever you put the objectives. Let's see. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Elle, Lily, Angela. It's hard. It's hard to make SMART goals all day, but it's definitely such an important part of any important projects. I appreciate that. After we know our SMART objectives, know your audience. Knowing your audience will help you better define your learning strategy requirements with a digital learning solution. As my personal everyday example, whenever we talk about Salesforce training, you always have this kind of, should I move forward with sales enablement or should I move forward with LMS? And if you start from your audience, from those who should benefit from the training, it would be way easier to make the right decisions down the road. Step two would be also important. Define learning solution requirements. How do you see it from the functional standpoint, from the technical one? What are the cost requirements? My personal experience and what we see after researching the markets of our ideal customers and pretty much all the industries, every company should pretty much afford the learning solution. It's not that huge expense, but it definitely makes a difference. At the same time, if you are transparent with how much you can spend, it will just make the search way easier, and you would be able to make a decision based on all those factors, just finding the best fit for your research and for your requirements. Step three would be exploring the market. Well, because when you know what you expect from the solution, how it all should work, it's just the right time to go in the markets, book a few demos, see how folks from different companies approach that, view the solution ratings and customer reviews. Those typically cannot lie, and you will quickly identify what are the measure upsides of using some vendor's solution and what are the downsides that would better help you get a clear picture whenever you would make a decision to move forward with somebody. Then you will be evaluating the vendors. That would be our step number 4. And so the last goal in this step would be to get a short list of 3 to 5 vendors. To achieve this, I recommend that you browse through their websites if you have time. I know that we would most often look for an IT solution when we need it yesterday and when the issues that we have are just so apparent that we need to fix it like right now. But if you have time, go ahead and take the free test drive. A lot of solutions provide a free trial. We just increased our test period of duration from 14 days to 30 days to give you even more flexibility to play with the product and build the pilots without any commitments. And also ask for a use case demonstration. it tends to work perfectly when the sales rep you're working with can show you exactly how they solved something you're looking to solve for another client. Now, the fifth step, the last but not the least, is to choose a solution. When our clients decide to implement a digital learning solution in their company, they typically contact us, and instead of suggesting our products right away, we guide them through all of these steps and ask clarifying questions in order to help them make an informed decision and choose the right solution for their needs. I can definitely go into hard closing, but I don't feel it's right, and that's what we put behind our sales team philosophy, because after all, it only matters how well is product market fit done, how happy is the customer. And so instead of having some churn on the upcoming years of contracts, it's definitely way better to see happy clients who is returning back, who is growing with us and growing their projects just because it was the right decision right off. And my personal thing, something I couldn't really understand, and the reason that I rolled out the process in this manner was a quick conversation in Las Vegas that I had with one of our potential clients. It was a DevLearn conference. Yeah, and by the way, while I'm telling this, please use the chat to say if you go to DevLearn, would be happy to meet you here in Vegas in the end of October. So we had a conversation with the prospects on the booth, and they were like asking a lot of questions about the LMS. Of course, as a sales rep, I had to qualify them, and I was like, cool, can you tell me a little more about how it works right now? And it appeared that they just signed the contracts with the LMS vendor they are already so unhappy about. And although the contract expires in 2 years and they will have to stick to the solution for 2 years, they were already looking for somebody new. Don't follow this path, make an informed decision, and make sure that you have all the data you need. On our end, it typically takes about 1 week at most to analyze your use case, create some guidelines and recommendations, and pretty much help you select the best solution. Uh, of course, I understand that. So with the groups of decision makers, it can be a longer process. That's okay, no worries. By the way, we have a collection of free white papers. They're all on our website, and they can help you select the right LMS authoring tool, launch new employee onboarding, and so on. Even if you don't choose us, those can be well helpful to identify the top performer. We'll follow up with that as well, so no worries. You don't have to leave the session right now to check those out. And we are kind of wrapping to the ends. Our last points would be the challenges in the current digital learning solutions that that deter the adoption of learning tools. And so I think that the biggest challenges that prevent the adoption of learning tools are a lack of time and human resources. It always takes some time to adopt new technologies, create learning programs, and start employee training. Plus, not everyone who is engaged in training knows how to work with course authoring tools and learning management solutions. And many of the digital learning solutions are aimed at professionals with a lot of experience and maybe a degree. That's why for many companies with no previous experience in e-learning, it becomes a real problem to adopt e-learning tools. We had multiple cases with our current clients when one department or even the whole country just were unable to adopt e-learning once. And even when we had a success in another country and tried to spread the experience, try to expand the project, it was really hard to adopt e-learning as a technology after they had the first failure. So that's okay. with the right tool, you're not going to have that big of an issue. And the solution here is to select the tools with no to little learning curve. Because if they have a user-friendly interface, if they are easy to use, and if they have a technical support, even if you're a one-man team, and just like we've seen today, it's a pretty popular situation. You're not going to have yourself alone to solve all that stuff. You'll have a team of experts who would be able to help you on any matter. Again, feel free to use our white papers. If they save you time, I'll be happy. They'll help you learn how to choose the right digital learning solution for your needs. And overall, today we covered several effective ways of bringing more humanization to e-learning. We found out what features you can use to humanize online courses. We learned some user experiences of our clients who already moved their training online and got a couple of practical tips on how to find the best e-learning solution for your company. So I hope you enjoyed the last half an hour. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here today. And now I'm ready for Q&A sessions. So Paulina, could you please help me out?
Sure thing. Awesome. All right. So first of all, I would like to read a comment from Allison. She says, iSpring is super user friendly as well. All around, I've enjoyed using it over the last couple of years. I can also attest to their sales methods. Max actually sold me on iSpring, and I enjoyed working with him as our rep until he got his promotion.
Yeah, I'm not that much in direct sales right now. I'm in charge of the whole team. But I do my best to go back to the field from time to time because it's important to stay in touch with the clients. And I definitely miss everybody I ever worked with personally that I cannot do right now. Thank you so much, Allison.
So, Edward was asking, can you add a character?
Because the content library is integrated tightly with the PowerPoints, you can download any of our characters in just a couple of clicks. But if you need to use your own character, you can either simply throw in the picture to the presentation. And I believe that we have the character builder, which could be helpful as well. So it's possible to do that yourself and use it in some of iSpring models. Last but not the least, we constantly collect feedback from our clients. So if you don't find the proper character, you can definitely submit your requests, and they probably not going to start a photo shoot like tomorrow. But if we get a lot of similar requests, we would definitely add a character like the one you requested.
And another comment is from Lean. I'm new to a lot of e-learning. Just want to say that I have learned a lot from webinars this month with iSpring. Seriously, I know the hope is to make new connections, but your info is really useful and appreciate the no strings attached info. That's super important to know. Thank you very much for sharing that. And another question that I wanted to ask, and I'm not sure if Max, if you know the answer, but still, Matthew is asking, is there a way to integrate the squirms created in iSpring into SharePoint, or to integrate directly from a SharePoint site into the iSpring LMS?
From the first side, I don't think it will work exactly like that. So what I would recommend is just to have a quick conversation with one of the support folks. I can help you organize that, Matthew, and just get it to your calendar at the right time, so that we can see how to best reuse the content from SharePoint.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Yeah, Matthew gave you a thumb up.
Thank you.
um, Raza's question is, most LMSs are focused on asynchronous learning. Do you provide tools for synchronous learning such as workshop management, etc.?
Yeah, and we've done a great progress here this year. There were a lot of new functionalities developed particularly for synchronous learning. and you can now schedule live sessions, live workshops in a way more convenient manner. So we definitely see the benefits of using the combo and making sure that you not only use asynchronous kind of content, but you use the synchronous approach as well. You can do webinars, you can do live sessions, you can mix that with some courses, and so build the sequence in a proper way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much again. And I also see some replies to you, Raza. So maybe you would like to check out the chat replies. And a couple of questions connected with Articulate. I am an e-learning developer. I use Articulate Storyline a lot in my work. I don't know iSpring. Can you tell me why I should use it and how do iSpring and Articulate compare? Here I would like to ask maybe our users to let you know in the chat the I think that would be the perfect
Oh,
answer actually.
that would be fair, I guess. Yeah. Do we have anybody who has both Articulate and iSprint in the toolkit? My personal opinion here is, both we and Articulate, we all work in the same fields. I was super excited to hear them go into Series A. Like, if you don't know, they just got $1.5 billion back in July after Series A. And all we do together while being kind of rivals and competitors is helping us build a better community and provide e-learning for different industries, different users. So in this sense, we are pretty much doing something to change the world and to make the world work in a different way. And what we see right now would probably be pretty much impossible back 20 years ago. So when we compare Articulate and iSpring and Captivate, uh, those are all tools to help you build the courses. They just work in a different way. Um, I've seen a lot of users who just have different approaches in their toolkit. And by having an extensive toolkit, some of the tasks would be easier to solve with Articulate, others would be easier to solve with iSprint. And, it just matters what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I actually think that Andrew described it perfectly. Different tools for different uses. My designer colleagues use both depending on what fits the learning objective best. So I think
Yeah,
that's the best way to describe it. We still have some time left, and let's cover a couple more questions before we wrap up the session. So first of all, is iSpring both an authoring tool and an LMS?
that's a great question. Uh, we provide both authoring tool as the solution, and that would be the PowerPoint add-in. You definitely seen that today over the demonstrations. You can start the trial if you want to, or just read more on the website. And that's the authoring portion. And we also have our own LMS, which perfectly integrates with the authoring solution. So just depending on what you're looking for, you can either get just a part of our offerings, or you can look at us as at a one-stop shop. The most frequent feedback I heard is that when it's a one-stop shop, both the LMS vendor and the authoring tool vendor is the same person. So there is not going to be any back and forth, any ping pong, like, hey, talk to LMS provider. That's why it's not working. It's just one person responsible for that. That's what our clients enjoy when they choose both our LMS and our authoring tool.
Actually, I would also like to add here that even though we have an authoring tool and an LMS, our tool is compatible with, I think, top LMS choices out there on the market. And we know that changing an LMS is much harder process
Oh,
compared
sure.
to getting another authoring tool in your toolbox. So if you already have an LMS, most likely iSpring will work with it. And we constantly do the testing so that we leave more choices to our customers, not limiting them in terms of the LMS choice. So
Hmm.
I think that's also helpful to know here. And speaking of an LMS, I would like to ask you, Max, A quick question from Edward. Will Zoom work to do a live class with iSpring LMS and then be available recorded for those who can't make it live class or want to review?
Yeah, it's totally doable. We have native integration with Zoom, so it's gonna be easy as ABC. You can just connect Zoom and automate that as the process. And again, like since we brought up authoring tool and LMS as a kind of topic,
Mm-hmm.
um, in some cases, I'm not going to even advise you to consider iSpring LMS. It's all about product market fit. Like if you come to us from academics and you need to enroll all of your college students into the training management solution, our LMS is not going to do a great job here, and that's what we are really clear about. So at the same time, we've seen expanded use of our authoring tools uh, in the academic segment as well. That's where it has a pretty good fit. So it all depends on what you're really willing to achieve, what is important for you, particularly, and yeah.
Okay, I think that we've covered all questions. I would like to thank you, Max, for doing such a wonderful presentation, and hopefully now you folks are enarmed with some of the ways that you not only are sort of afraid of e-learning, but you can embrace it and use these techniques to just make the training process more learner-centric and effective. I would like to thank everybody, wish you a lovely day, and I will see you at the next session. Bye, everybody, and bye, Max.
Thank you, everybody.
See you.
Bye bye.